Before I really get into how to handle something like this, I do want to point out a very useful pattern. And we saw this type of stuff earlier in the course. You might be wondering what this has to do with anything. You'll see in the next video. But I just want to remind you guys, when we did things like this, there was a pattern that popped up. And you might remember that x plus 5 squared meant x plus 5 times x plus 5. And without showing you all the work, because I know you guys know how to do it yourselves, if you were to multiply x times these and 5 times these and combine like terms, you'd end up with x squared plus a 10x plus 25. And there's a pattern at play there that's not obvious, but when I point it out to you, if you don't see it already, you'll be like, okay, I hopefully you can convince yourself it's true. Likewise, since x plus 9 squared means x plus 9, x plus 9, were I to take x times these and 9 times these, we would end up with x squared, we'd end up with an 18x, we'd end up with an 81. And then for the last one over here, if I had x minus 4 times x minus 4, it would end up being x squared minus 8x plus 16. And if you're still not quite seeing the pattern, you know, I'm going to write it out here algebraically. I will be honest, usually when I write it down algebraically, it doesn't make things clear for people. But then when I go back and point to things, you'll be like, okay, I think I see what's going on. The pattern is that it's always going to be the first thing squared. It's always going to be the last thing squared. And then that middle term is always going to be twice whatever a times b is, twice whatever this times this actually is. And if this was a minus sign instead of a plus sign, then there would be minus signs here and here, and there'd be a minus sign here instead as well. And that, so that you could see that pattern in play. Like I had x plus 5 squared, and it ends up being this first thing squared is x squared, this thing squared is 25, and this middle term is what I get if I multiply these two things together and then double it. That's true on all of these, right? This first thing squared is this squared is this, and that middle term is multiply these two things together and double it. You can see it over and over again, and that's all this is saying. This first thing squared goes here, this thing squared goes there, and that middle term is always a product of these two things doubled. I did forget to put a plus sign down here, though. That last term always is positive. So we're going to exploit that pattern when dealing with this kind of stuff, and you'll see it's a little bit unexpected, and it's not something that's obvious, but when you see it, you can be like, okay, yeah, that's helpful, thanks. To which I'll say, hey, you're welcome. That's my job. So check it out, and I think it'll go well.